Right, okay, this is the final part of sort of activity-based costing. So this is part three. And I've almost decided to treat it separately because it's these are important things to now think about, if you like. And really it's talking about the importance of ABC, activity-based costing, and the public sector. The key issue here is that, as I mentioned earlier on, you just cannot measure, or sorry, you cannot control what you cannot measure. And typically, we take for granted the fact that we have established accounting systems, if you like revenue, cost of sales, whatever it is. Fundamentally, these are processes where we clearly have a relationship, or we can do a walkthrough from right from the order by setting up having a database of suppliers and customers all the way to a system of paying. So we can have controls right across the entire system to measure, collect data, if you like. And then so really what we're saying here is that in the public sector for a while, now I mean things are different, but generally the public sector, because of a different type of key, because of the different type of key stakeholder. So really, the key stakeholders, if you like, with the public sector has been the government, if you like, and yeah, and if you like, the community, or if you like, the population who they serve, as opposed to say the private sector where you have shareholders who are investing money and who are constantly, if you like, using something referred to as the Mendeley matrix. They have a high interest and high influence, and so you're very, very aware of who they are, and you're always trying to please them. So there's a greater likelihood, because they judge you based on your profit, so there's a greater likelihood for you to be cost efficient as opposed to the public sector, which is a bit more relaxed in that regard. So this is the kind of way of thinking about this and writing about this. So ABC, of course, can be used if it comes to cost efficiencies within the public sector, within service sectors, by trying to measure cost drivers. But this requires measurement, and there is generally, if you like, a resistance to this kind of change within a slightly relaxed sector that isn't under the same type of pressure to deliver. Um, so when I think of the NHS, schools, because they're not profit making, because again, like I say, they're not profit making organizations. They have different drivers. We're still talking about performance measures. They still need to be looked at as to how they measure performance. But their performance isn't based on the amount of money coming in per se. So there's less pressure on the efficiency. So, but now we have this austerity, there's technology, there's politics. So these are very hot topics, and people are very sensitive about these issues. They want to know what's going on with the money, because you almost have a scenario where you have taxpayers who are putting money into a system, but they're not the necessary beneficiaries. So because you have this issue, because they're not the direct stakeholders, yet they're putting money into it, or you have there is this growing sensitivity about people wanting to know exactly how this money is being allocated and controlled and spent. So there is an increase or tendency now for people to scrutinize the amount of money or how money is spent. So ABC can help, if you like, with this idea of public responsibility, public accountability, resource allocation, and almost helping managers to manage and guide, if you like, guide the process of accounting for costs within the public sector. And ABC, like I say, because we're aware of what's driving those costs, we can then manage the costs. Right. And again, with the public sector, I highlight here again, we see a resistance. The implementation of these systems cannot control what we cannot measure. And to measure, we must have systems and processes put in place. And many public organizations have resisted this introduction. Again, we must be able to measure things, which means recording, for example, time spent. So just trying to ask, because people, there is a kind of relaxed nature of arriving, not maybe arriving later in the day and leaving early, or just a general, without not assaulting the sector. I'm just saying that there's just a general, compared to the private sector, there is a lack of urgency, if you like, generally, in terms of cost efficiencies, because generally the government will pick up the bill. So timesheets, for example, enable accountability for what people are doing, and this is something the public sector is, of course, now doing. But once upon a time, remember, these ideas were very much mid 80s, early 90s, and this sector was very much resistant to this. at that time. So definitely now we have this post whatever 1997. You do have markets now within the National Health Service. You do have um, outsourcing within many of the education systems, and so things are changing. But ultimately, we see a cultural change towards this whole idea of cost efficiency, because if you like, the stakeholders and the funders are more interested now in what's going on within the National Health Service or within schools or within housing. So that, yeah, that was a good. I just wanted to put that, keep that separate, so we're thinking about it, we're able to write about it um, when it comes to discussing the public sector and issues like activity-based costing, so they can still be very much applied, but there is always going to be some resistance. Cool, great stuff, and that moves us off to part 4, where we'll be talking about throughput.